Civil war has broken out in Venezuela as the protests reach a whole new level. There is no telling how far this will go, but unfortunately this will not be restored. People are fed up with the current government and have been rioting and protesting for 3 months now, vowing to continue until Maduro takes a walk. The question is, how long until we see external intervention? You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we are going to have our focus on Venezuela. Let's begin with the financial side. Bets on Venezuelan default are climbing as international reserves slump towards this $10 billion mark amid anti-government protests and the president's push to rewrite the constitution. This here is, of course, a very unpopular move. You have the general population, which is split here. Many people want to get rid of Maduro. They are, whether what side you're on, you can see that the public will blame the leader for what's happening. That's just the way it is. Doesn't matter what country you live in. And right now, obviously, the turmoil that is going on in Venezuela is one of the worst that we have in the world, and that is quite unfortunate. The implied probability of the country missing a payment over the next 12 months rose to 56% in June, and that is according to everyone's favorite credit default swaps. When you remember the credit default swaps, this is what was the trigger, what was the linchpin for what happened in Greece. It was this that officially really brought down Greece, and this is the type of financial weapons that we see. There could be any number of reasons why a country could be taken down, but there are instruments in the financial world like credit default swaps which can be used specifically as a weapon to take out a country. And unfortunately, what we see in Venezuela is so many different levels of problems, and that's really something. It's not just the commodity which they export the most, in this case oil, is down significantly in price, and there is a time in between that and the time when that commodity goes back up in price that they have some hard times. There's basically every problem that could happen with a country is happening right now in Venezuela. You've heard me talk about it before. You've probably seen the videos and the articles and everything else where you see for yourself looting, violence, protests. They're trying to overthrow the government. They have the absolving of the equivalent of your parliament or Congress. You have violence that is going on. People can't even take a walk because they're scared to leave their homes. Everything is happening right now in Venezuela. I've been hearing from people on the ground, and the continuation of this doesn't seem to ever end. Maduro, who faced 3 months of violent protests that have left almost 80 dead that they know about, has drastically cut imports of food and medicine in order to conserve the cash needed to pay bondholders with declining oil prices and production. I mean, think about that for a second. Oh, you need food and medicine? Unfortunately, sorry, not going to happen. Just to interject for a moment, I'll probably forget before the end of the video. 2 things that I believe people should have are homemade, or at least a storage of some type of medicine. A lot of people like to keep colloidal silver for one. That's something that I have personally. I don't necessarily tell people, you should have this, but that's something that I have on hand. And of course, food. People need to have seeds. They need to have sprouting seeds, and they need to be growing their own food. If all you have is a balcony, then you should be growing food on that balcony. If you live in a place like me, Toronto, it's cold. A lot of the time, it's too cold to grow crops. You can grow them indoors, I assure you. Grow sprouts. You can grow herbs indoors. I mean, do what you can, right? And that's what the people of Venezuela need to be doing right now. If it's just a little small amount, it's going to help, I assure you. So here we go. That hasn't stopped a drop in reserves, which usually provide investors with a certain degree of assurance that the government will avoid default in the short term. And it's talking about the liquidity problems that they have. They are in big trouble. There's interest payments that they need to pay. They're not going to happen. Ultimately, they're going to have to default, or we're going to see major chaos. And that's just the way it is. I mean, it's already terrible. Venezuela's reserves fall to a new 15-year low. Guess where it's going, everyone? Just take a guess. You don't need to be Jim Cramer. You don't need to be Janet Yellen, Janet the Beautiful Yellen, to figure out where this is going. I assure you, you're going to have it moving in this direction. It's just the way it is. Look at this. Mob attacks Maduro opponents as it storms Venezuela's National Assembly. All right. There are paid provocateurs. There are all sorts of people within the military. You have people that are on both sides of the equation, all sides of the equation. And this is what you see. You see it all the time. Violence taking place, people fighting each other, people fighting the same side. People don't know what's happening. There's friendly fire. There's all sorts of things. People are dying because of what's happening. They're not even factoring in, I believe, things like starvation and everything else. I mean, these 80 people are probably just what has happened in the clashes that have taken place. This is not going to get better. I assure you, it's going to continue to escalate. The hyperinflation that they're experiencing there is getting worse. Do you, personally, do you know anybody that has faced hyperinflation themselves, firsthand experience? Well, I have spoken with many people over the years who have told me about their experiences with hyperinflation. And it's exactly as I described to you, and probably exactly what you describe, have read in different books. We have seen people that are just literally all their savings obliterated by this. It's sad. I mean, you know, I have found it myself very hard to, you know, to say any words in response to their comments about this. I mean, this is something that it hurts people really badly. I mean, you don't need to think about that pretty hard. I mean, just, it's really bad. It is terrible what's happening in Venezuela. It's not really getting covered much. I mean, we did see a little bit of information, but the situation, I assure you, is still going on. It's getting worse. That's why I continuously cover this. Dozens of pro-government activists stormed into the grounds of Venezuela's National Assembly Wednesday and attacked lawmakers, leaving several hurt and bleeding. So they came in, broke through the front gate, set off fireworks, and basically started attacking people. This isn't the way to do it, but, you know, they're pushed to the edge. So at this point, it doesn't matter. There are anti-government protests which are taking place. In this, they're actually suggesting that there's 91 people killed. I don't know what the real number is. It's probably a lot higher. What's happening in Venezuela is simply a foreshadowing of what we will see in other cities. It's just the way it is. Caracas is going to be the foreshadowing of a lot of cities out there. Maybe not to the same degree, but hey, why not? You see what happens after even sports matches that people are very upset about. I mean, they burn buildings down after their team loses, sometimes after their team wins. And imagine what would happen if somebody can't eat. Well, suddenly doesn't seem like that's the case. But hold on, wait a minute. The stock market in Venezuela is doing well. It's doing very well, in fact. The stock market is going into levels which would make the S&P look very silly. So then what's the problem? The stock market is an indicator of the booming health of an economy, isn't it? Well, of course not. Of course, that's really not the case. Brandishing guns and dressed in red, the activist fired shots, threw stones, and set off fireworks in the Capitol building in Caracas. According to these local reports, you could see the walls dripping in blood and two opposition politicians with blood running down their faces. It is getting violent. People are dying. It's terrible. What are we going to do to fix this? Well, I assure you, their outside intervention is something that the people of Venezuela, many of them, are looking forward to. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, because if you want a puppet government of the US in Venezuela, I don't know if that's going to be any better, perhaps in the short term, but I don't know about the long term. I'm really scared about what's happening there. Switching gears, look at what everyone's favorite Mark Zuckerberg recently said, and that is the idea, once again, the idea of establishing a form of basic income in the US. He's saying, look, why don't we do what's happening with Alaska's permanent fund dividend? Pools the money from the state's oil revenue, returns it to the residents at the end of the year. Isn't that great? Now, I don't know where the money's going to come from. Every time I read about this, I always see increased taxation. That is never a solution. Taxation does not bring in more money for people, because you're taking the money from people to give to the people. It's a very foolish system. The only problem is that when they take it from you and it makes its way through the different levels of government, at every single level, more and more is stripped away. That's just the way it is. Even if there's no corruption, you're bringing it through all the levels of government. There's administration fees, there's people to pay, there's everything that's in there, and that will take from you, I assure you. This is just something that I think I have found it to be something amazing. Texting on the move turns your walk into an ungainly lollop. Now, the article basically talks about the fact that as people are typing on their phones, they're not paying attention, so they become more cautious as they walk. We've seen people literally walk off cliffs. They go onto the road, they get hit by cars, everything like this. What I found is that people are standing in the most awkward spots. They don't know what their surroundings are. That's what it tells me. I've seen people literally facing like 2 inches, their face being 2 inches away from walls. More than once I've seen this. I've seen people standing essentially on the middle of the road. I have seen people that are thinking they're at a red light. Unfortunately, there's about 20 cars behind them honking, and all sorts of things, all because people are texting. Now, I'm not telling you that texting is necessarily bad. Do whatever you want. I just think that it's very funny the way that things have really changed in a very short period of time over the last few years. More people are focused on the things that are not important in life, and this is just one example of that. All right, if you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. When you give me a thumbs up, it pushes these videos higher up into the YouTube search rankings. And if you found the video informative, I know you'll find my books, The Money GPS, and my new release, Global Economic Collapse, even more informative. You can flip through the books at Amazon. The first book is about the 4 asset classes, talks about the foundation, talks about how to actually profit. The new book is on familiar concepts there, but I also get into things like tax incentives, earning income, and how to become self-sufficient. So check that out at Amazon. If you are more interested in the audiobook version, you can check that out at themoneygps.com. Just wanted to mention to you that I have new t-shirts online. So I have 4 new t-shirts for you to check out. Check this out for the fans. The Money GPS. I use the same font that I did in my new book. I think it's pretty cool. Unfortunately, myself included as a Canadian, I can't even order my own shirt. The next time I go to the US, I am going to order all of my shirts, and send them to the hotel or wherever I'm staying. For whatever reason, Amazon doesn't allow shipping outside of the US at this time for these type of shirts. Hopefully they'll expand that soon. But like I said, the next visit to the US, I'm obviously going to order my own shirts. This is one of them, the Money GPS. I got End the Fed. You asked for it, you got it. By the way, all of these shirts are available men, women, and youth sizes. And you can check that out there. Different colors are available. 5 different colors, that's the max. So we got the End the Fed. And just for fun, the Covfefe, we heard about this with Donald Trump. I think it's just a little funny thing. It's not really anything serious. If you want to have a little conversation piece, this is a good shirt to wear. For those who are into Donald Trump, or maybe you don't like Donald Trump, I don't really care necessarily, but I thought it was just funny to create it, and I made it with a little fancy handwriting, so that's interesting there. And last but not least, say no to GMO. I had brought that shirt out there. So if you want to check these shirts out, if you're interested, they have free returns at Amazon, which I thought was pretty cool. You can see the different sizes that they have and different colors and everything else. So you can check that out. The link is in the description of this video. And one interesting thing was, so I had these, I asked you what type of t-shirts you'd be interested in, and I did got Bitcoin, literally the words got Bitcoin with a question mark and got gold question mark. Okay, just text, that's it. And both of them were rejected by Amazon. I don't know if that's the got milk campaign somehow has copyright on that. I don't understand how that works. Anyway, I thought it's ridiculous that I can't even write those words. But regardless, that's the way it is. Stay tuned for more of these. I think it's pretty cool. If you're interested, links are in the description. Take care.